please stay out of my goal. You don't know how to clear, you rally the ball back and forth, making it unpredictable for the goalie. Just stop. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about roles and positions, because most players seem to not understand this. In their defense though, the game does not do a very good job representing it since all you queue up for is either goalie or forward. But there is a bit more to roles than that, and it becomes incredibly obvious when you queue goalie and get two midfielders who, like nerds at their first high school party, don't know how to score. In this video, we will cover all the different types of roles, the positions they should take, and cover a bit about how to form your team. My name's Arpai, and I'm somewhere in the top 100-ish when I don't decide to copium run it down with a couple of friends. And if you're enjoying these types of guides, make sure you punch that subscribe button down below, just like how X punches little girls. Let's go. So we'll start by talking about roles, because your position actually greatly differs based on what role you're playing. Starting with goalies, which is simpler to understand, but there are two different kinds: defensive and offensive goalies. Defensive goalies like Dubu, Atlas, and Asher serve as iron walls, creating shields that block multiple abilities across a wide area so the ball can never touch the goal. They are great at stopping multiple enemy pushes at the same time and delaying the ball until your teammate can get into position. On the flip side, we have offensive goalies like Luna, Kai, and Estelle. They're great at making sure the ball stays offensive as much as possible by using long-range abilities. In a sense, it's like having 2.5 forwards by having your goalie also be able to serve as a midfield, an attacker, or even a scorer. In exchange though, they are going to be more vulnerable to strong scorers like Kai and Estelle. On the forward side, we have three much more fluid roles. Anyone can technically be a midfield, but some good examples are Ira, Estelle, and Juno. Their job in midfield is to assist both sides. You should be someone that helps the goalie by harassing enemy scorers, making yourself available to pass to, or just making sure the ball never reaches their scorer. On the offensive side, you should back up the scorer by making sure the goalie doesn't have an angle to clear the ball, by being the backup ball catcher, or just be that extra ability push to help score that goal. One very important note is that you are not the goalie, so stay out of the goalpost. The more you rally in front of the goal, the closer the enemy gets, which makes your goalie's job that much harder. If you don't have an angle to get the ball free, let your goalie take care of it, and move to a spot your goalie can pass to or run some disruption from the side. Now next, let's talk about the attacker, whose goal is simple: smash. X, Juliet, and Drakkar are the best for this role. Their job is to break stagger, disrupt enemies, and ultimately eliminate them off the field. Keep in mind that you can't purely be an attacker because, well, there's cooldowns. So attackers will likely transition into either midfield or a scorer when the time comes. Having an attacker is really useful to not only put pressure and gain an advantage, but to shut down some troublesome folks like Kai's or Juliet's running stack on stack. They can also be someone that harasses the goalie so they can't even block a simple shot. Keep in mind that playing this role is the most level dependent, so make sure you grab those orbs and get KOs. Finally, we have the scorer. Like the midfield, anyone can technically be in this role, but some good examples are Estelle, Kai, Juliet, and Juno. We covered some good scoring techniques in my pro tips video already, but to add on to it, good scorers should be able to push quickly, get access to weird angles, be able to brute force in a goal, or predict where the goalie is going to clear and catch them off guard. Most forwards will probably have to dynamically change between 2 or 3 of these roles as the game state changes, but the most important thing is to make sure you always have a scorer. Now that we established these roles, let's talk about where each role sits on the field. Defensive goalies are the simplest, where they can pretty much sit back in the goal and take it easy. By the way, to read these maps, red is where you should be most of the time, and orange is when you feel a little bit safer and you want to be a bit more aggressive. For defensive goalies, try to stay in the middle as much as you can so you won't get caught out by a 5,000 km/h ball going directly into the corner pocket. Also, try not to be right up against the goal line or a stray shot might just take you out. Offensive goalies are usually a bit worse at guarding, so they have to react a bit quicker and predict ball and player movements. When the ball isn't in your court, you might have to step up a bit to help harass and keep pressure. But make sure you are still able to catch a stray ball should it come from any angle. Estelle and Kai have fast mobility to do last minute saves so they can move up a bit more. Meanwhile, Luna will likely stay back similar to a defensive goalie while firing long range shots. On the forward side, let's start with the scorer this time. You usually stay past the midline unless you're really worried about pressure on your team's side of the field. This, however, doesn't mean you don't do anything while waiting. Your job while you're over there is to make sure you set yourself up for a free pass, either from your midfield or goalie, and set yourself up for an easy goal. One good placement is to be on the opposite side of where your midfield is coming from. When their goalie moves towards them to block, they can pass it across to you for a free goal. Also, while you're free over there, go ahead and do some poking, yoink some orbs, or maybe kill their goalie if they're out of position. But remember, never do any of that over your main job, which is to get the ball past the line. Next, the attacker's position depends heavily on what your other role is and who the priority targets are. For example, if you already have a good score, then you might want to take a midfield position after you do your general harassment. Now, in terms of choosing a priority target, if you find that their score is oppressive, shut them down. If you find their midfield is preventing passes, shut them down. If their goalie is standing there with 2 tower shields not letting a single ball pass, first, give them a pat on the back, and then shut them down. As soon as that is done, however, make sure you go back into your midfield or score positions and prepare. Also to note, a kill isn't always worth the time investment. Sometimes, if the ball is coming towards you, it's more worth it to, score. But I know it's hard to convince you X-players out of your bloodlust. Finally, we have midfield, which is the hardest to explain position out of the 3. Most of the time, you want to be in this red area. On defense, you want to set yourself up so you can get a clean pass from the goalie to your scorer. On offense, you want to be in a position to intercept the goalie rebound and keep up the scoring pressure. You have to constantly be mobile and perceptive, as well as have a keen prediction of where the ball is going to go. Playing midfield well is actually really hard. Characters with long-range abilities, zone control, and mobility will definitely help with this role a lot since your ball access will be much higher. Okay, raise your hand if you laughed at the word ball access. Alright, now you all know roughly where you should sit on the map, so let's talk a bit about team compositions. When drafting characters, especially in solo queue, it's important to try to synergize. For example, if you have a defensive goalie, you might want to make sure you have a ranged midfield to help keep the ball on the enemy court and to help the scorer keep up the pressure. If that's the case, then a scorer who has kill pressure would also be helpful to get some punches in while you wait for the ball to return. Meanwhile, if you have an offensive goalie, it might be helpful to have an attacker like X or Juliet as a midfield. They can help alleviate pressure on the defensive side by harassing and killing their scorer. The offensive goalie can then focus on keeping the ball in the enemy court or assisting with the goal. With kill pressure secured, you might want to pick up a strong scorer with low kill pressure like Estelle or Kai, who have multiple abilities to force a goal in. Now, I'm not saying you have to draft around the goalie. The goalie can also swap based on the forward composition as well, but just understanding how different roles play together will help you form a stronger team. The most important thing, however, is just making sure you have someone who is a scorer. It is incredibly painful to have a game where neither forward knows how to score, so you guys just have to pray for miracle goals. Even if you picked a character to play midfield, if you see your other forward not really playing the offensive side, then you might have to take over as the dedicated scorer to make sure you guys have a chance to win. Whew, that was long-winded, but I hope it's been informative. If it's your first time here, make sure you guys check out the pro tips guide as well. It has a lot of good nuggets of information there. Go out there, score some goals, and I'll see ya next time. Ciao.